This morning I'm going to talk about men, and it might seem a bit strange to have a woman talking about men, but they're in our lives, aren't they, ladies? Yeah, men are much needed in church today and in society, but our society is bringing men down a lot of the time. They're telling us that they're toxic manhood, that men are too aggressive, men have got too much testosterone, men are no good at this, men are no good at that. And I can't even find a decent movie these days with a good hero. It's all heroines, it's all women. And I love us women. I am one, I've always been one, and I do like our sex. But we are not men. And, God made the two sexes. And he made the two sexes because he wanted man, and he wanted man to have a helper, a woman. But as I said, today there's a lot of ways men are put down. So I wanted to talk about men this morning. So this is based on a book. And the book is, it's not come up very well, The War on Men. Why society hates them and why we need them. It's by Owen Strachan, which I'd never heard of, Alex Bosley, and a few others. But I had heard of the guy that's done the introduction, and that is Vodi Balcom Jr. And I know quite a few of you have heard of Vodi Balcom Sr. And is a name that we know and trust. So, we trust him. So, why should we talk about men? That's the first thing. And as I said to you, we should talk about men because, first of all, God created them. God created them. And God, next slide, loves manhood. He loves men. And so should we. Now, Genesis 1:27, so right at the beginning. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them male and female. Now, that sounds so simple when you say it. But today, there's a lot of talk about how everything is female. I even saw online recently an article that said fetuses, babies, are female for the first 12 weeks of their life. And I mean, that's a load of rubbish. Okay? What they're saying is that the male genitalia don't descend and become male until after the 12th week of a fetus's life. So until then, they're saying that every fetus is female, but that's rubbish. The fetus already has either XX or XY chromosomes, and it's either going to become male or become female. It's absolute rubbish, but it's about this trend. Let's prove scientifically that men aren't needed. Let's prove scientifically that only women are really there. Let's prove scientifically that later in life men can be trapped in the wrong body because they started off female. And if they started off female, then that's what they want to go back to. It's only nature. Let's prove that scientifically, and that's what that article is about. But it is a load of rubbish. And when we start to deny manhood, we also start to deny womanhood. Now, I am a proud woman, and I love being married to a guy. When I was teaching, one of the kids said to me once, "Miss, do you think I'm an attractive guy?" There he was, all 17 years old. "Don't you think I'm handsome, miss?" And my natural reaction was, I laughed. And then I said, "Oh, I am sorry." And the girls in the class were all giggling then. And they said, "Miss doesn't think you're attractive." I said, "No, it's not that at all." I said, "What it is that I don't actually see any of you like that. I see you as my students, not somebody to be attracted to or not attracted to. I said, I've never actually thought whether you're attractive or not. I said, you're a lovely young man. I said, you'll find a lovely young woman. So one of the girls said to me, well, what kind of man do you like? And I said, Mr. Miller. That's the kind of man I like, Mr. Miller. And then, oh, that's so nice, miss. He's my husband. He's the man that I find attractive. He's the man I've been with for married 38 years. He's the man God put me with. And that's who I am meant to be with. And I think there's a real loss in our society and a real loss of understanding about this. You know, I was recently talking to one of the lifeguards because I swim a lot. A young man, 20 or 21, 22, something around there, who knows. And he was talking to me, and this great big spider crawled out the side. Now, if you know me, I'm not a spider fan, okay? So I screamed a little. And he said, oh, shall I sort that for you? I said, oh, yes, please. I said, sometimes only a guy will do. Yeah, sometimes I need a brave guy to move the spiders, okay? And I don't mind admitting it. But I'll tell you something, he stood a little taller because there was an appreciation from me, not wrongly, not sexually or anything, but appreciation of me for his manhood. And he stood that little bit taller. And I've seen that in my students in the classroom too. Yeah? We need to appreciate the guys. When we appreciate them for who they stand a little bit taller. They own their manhood a little bit better. And as I talk, you'll see that I want to, as women, we have a pivotal role in this. And as men, you need to take on board your own manhood. But we have a pivotal role as well, ladies. 1 Chronicles 28:20. David was on his deathbed, and he said to his son, be strong and courageous, and do the work. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord my God is with you. He will not fail you or forsake you until all the work of the service of the temple of the Lord is finished. He told his son, be strong. And we need to tell our sons and grandsons, you don't have to be a girl. You don't have to be a girl to be the hero. Be strong. God made you strong. Appreciate that strength. We were out yesterday, and they were on these high things, and oh my goodness, sometimes I didn't want to watch. But, they loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's funny. And a while ago, Albert, all Albert was going to do, he's 6, was drive his own jet plane when he got older. But he knew Grandma's not very good at heights and speeds. And he said, it's okay, Grandma, I'll look after you. I'll drive my jet plane safely. So there he is, he's a little man. And Asher came in, Grandad had taken him to the park. And while they were out, I decided to stand on a chair and clean my light fittings. And he came in just as I was finishing. He went, oh no, Grandma, I'm here. And he ran up to me and held his hand out to get me safely down. It's inbuilt into the boys. They want to be the one that helps. They love to help. So do girls. I'm not putting girls down. But we're talking about the guys here and how our society doesn't let boys be boys. A number of years ago, I was teaching and I came out of my classroom and there was 2 boys in the hallway and one boy had the other boy in a headlock and he was going like this on his head and the boy in the headlock was going, I was, oh goodness, let him go. And he stopped doing it and looked at me. And the boy in the headlock looked at me. And in unison they said, it's okay, miss, it's my brother. The mum getting beaten up was okay with it. It was his brother, you know. And I just laughed. I didn't tell them off or anything. I just laughed. Okay, boys, if that's what you want to do. But there's not enough of that. Too much, they would be told off, told, you know, given a detention, you can't behave like that. But they can, they're brothers. They loved each other. They were just having a, who knows, brother thing. Because brothers do that kind of thing. As Kirsty and Mike are going to find out. As Israel already knows. Brothers do that kind of thing. Now, at the moment, our culture is championing the inverse of God's given nature. They want boys to sit down and be quiet and do what they're told. And for many boys, that's not going to work. School is very feminine. And for many boys, it does not work. The lowest achievers are white working class boys in this society. And nobody is standing up and saying it. And they are the lowest achievers in school because sitting down, quietly listening does not work for boys. I saw a great alternative school in France, the Wild School for Boys. And they basically teach them out in the forest. It's not like forest school here, they don't only go out when it rains, they just basically go out, and it's brilliant. It takes on board, you know, more active, yeah. Now, again, when I was the way we're treating boys is causing a lot of anxiety with girls and boys. They don't know how to dress, they don't know how to speak to each other, they don't know how to express themselves. Social media is throwing images at them all the time, you know. It's a lot of confusion. And again, when I was teaching, I had a group of 17 and 18-year-olds in front of me. And I said to them, what age does childhood end? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Because we're saying in our society at the moment, and this is all about the infantilisation of our men and women, young men and women, we're telling them they're a child at 18. They are not a child at 18. They sit there and said to me, well, isn't it 1920, miss? I said, no, you're criminally responsible at the age of 10 in this country. You know, you are not a child in high school, you are a young adult. And we need to start treating them like that. You're a young adult, you make your decisions, you stand up and you get counted. Because, yeah, what else are we doing? We're making them stay infantilised. They need to understand that childhood ends. And when childhood ends, there are responsibilities. And responsibilities are not a bad thing. You know, they help us mature, they help us stand up, they help us grow in character. You can't always, you know, be a child. C.S. Lewis called these men without chests. Yeah, men without chests. Isn't that such a good term? I do like C.S. Lewis. I like his things. Yeah. Now, my pet's hate, absolute pet hate, is people who are naming their babies, baby boys, for their infanthood. You know, Robbie, Albie. Yeah? If you want to call your little baby Albie, go ahead. But give him a man's name to grow into. Albert, Robert. Yeah, call your babies what you want to call them, but don't call your men baby names. Because then you end up with them sat in my classroom, 6'2", acting like babies. Yeah, and it's like, are you ever going to grow up? And I've said that, and I'll probably get sacked today, but yeah, I probably would get sacked. Now, my father was from Ireland, and he came to this country at the age of 14, and he trained as a scaffolder. He left all of his family in Ireland, he moved country, he got himself training, he got himself housing, He got himself a girlfriend, my mother, and he got himself established in his manhood at 14 years old. We got 14-year-olds sat in classrooms messing about, mucking up everybody's chances because they're not academic. What on earth they're doing in a classroom, I have no idea. Why it's a bad thing to have an apprenticeship at 14, I have no idea. Why can't we let these young men grow up? They're causing problems because they're not growing up. Ephesians 4:15. Instead of speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of Him, who is head, that is Christ. From Him, the whole body joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work. So instead, speaking the truth in love, I've put an extra word in there and changed the meaning, but it means that we need to speak in truth. And we need to speak in truth about men. And if we don't, we can't be strong women, because we are the second part of the jigsaw puzzle. And how can we, if the first part is corrupted, how can we fit if we don't corrupt also? So we need to speak in truth. You know, many young men today are just, like I said, not growing up, not taking on their responsibilities. And what does that mean? Well, that means that they're not getting married to girls that they get pregnant. They're not staying around and being the father that they should be. They're running away because they're not mature. They're playing video games in their bedrooms. And it means then that the little girls are left holding the baby. And, you know, it's not ideal, but the girls are left, and it's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Because the girls and those children need the support of a strong father, not someone that runs away. Absolutely terrible. But this is our society today. We're not speaking the truth. What does marriage matter? It matters. You stand at that altar and you make a commitment to that person in the eyes of God. Even if you don't want to do it in the eyes of God because you don't believe, still, there's something about marriage and making that commitment. I promise. There's a strength in that covenant that means that you're not going to walk away at the first thing. You're not going to let your head be turned by a pretty young thing that walks by, either the man or the woman. Yeah, I've known cases of teachers, female teachers, running off with their students. I have no idea why. I mean, I've taught these young people, they're children. In their minds, there's no way I'd ever want to run off with one. Goodness me. Yeah? But people do, because their heads are turned by the attractive outer body. But that's not what God called us to be. He called us to fit together. And that marriage covenant is important. A young girl said to me once, well, what is marriage anyway, miss? My boyfriend says it's just a piece of paper. And I said to her, if it's just a piece of paper to him, then why won't he sign it for you? And she'd never thought of it like that. Why won't he sign it for you? If it's just a piece of paper, why are you not worth signing it for? And that's the question a lot of young girls need to be asking their partners. Don't have babies with them. Don't live with them. Tell them straight, if you're not prepared to sign that piece of paper, what are you prepared to do for me? And if you're not prepared to do anything for me, then why am I with you? Value yourselves, and then value the men that you want to be with. Value each other, because that's what it comes down to. Do you value them enough? Yeah? Colossians 2:8. See to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy. It's just a piece of paper. Hollow and deceptive philosophy. It's a binding covenant between two people in the eyes of the Lord. It is not just a piece of paper. Value yourselves and value what you are moving into. It's no accident I've been married 38 years. Sometimes I could have murdered him. Get less if I did. I'm not going to say it's rosy, yeah? But value the man and the wife you have, because that's who God's put you with, and that's who you need to fit with. And sometimes it takes some knocking off of corners. Yeah? Ladies, big lie, we can do it all in our society. We can't. We cannot do it all. Yeah? You've just got to accept that. It doesn't make you a second-class citizen. It doesn't make you less than. It makes you more empowered if you accept you can't do it all. You need somebody to support you. And the person God's given you to support you is that man. As big and smelly and all the rest of it as he is. They are very valuable to us. And as I said to start with, the church is very female these days. We've lost a lot of men. And we need to get those men back in church. And we're not going to do it by telling them that they're useless or they need to do this or they need to do that. We're going to do it by valuing who they are. We need that masculinity. We need that masculinity for our children. 2 Corinthians 10, 3-6. For though we live in the world, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. God knows that men and women need to be together. And we, as a church, need to tell people this. We need to get the message out there. And we need to give our boys and girls, the right direction. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. We take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Now, this is important because, I've had thoughts that were not very kind towards my husband. And I have to tell my brain off sometimes. Whoa, hang on a minute, it's not negative. He might do this, that and the other, but in the grand scheme of things, does it really matter? Who cares if he hasn't washed up all week? Does it really matter? And it does get to us, I know it does, because I've cooked and I've washed up, and what has he done? He sat in front of that telly. We'll get on to the guys' responsibilities as well, though. Don't you worry, ladies. But we need to give our boys and girls practical guidance. We need to give them practical guidance on dress. Deuteronomy 22:5. A woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord our God. You'd think that there was trans people back then, wouldn't you? But there weren't. And yet God has covered it. He's talking about clothing, but in our society they're talking about, surgery. If a parent castrated their son, they would be in court and in prison. And yet we're allowing doctors to do it, to chemically or physically castrate our sons, and we're allowing them to do it. It's absolute child abuse in my viewpoint. Absolute child abuse, and I don't care. No 3-year-old tells you they're a girl. They might like bright, sparkly things. I mean, who doesn't? That doesn't mean they're a girl. It means they're a boy who likes bright, sparkly things. Just let the boy be. Why does it have to mean that they've got to be a girl? Let them be. We need to talk to them about the way they speak. A gentle answer turns away wrath, Proverbs 15:1. But a harsh word stirs up anger. So much today. Now, again, Now, I gave up swearing just after I became a Christian. There's nothing harsher than swearing, and I gave it up. I used to swear, but I don't now, because we shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. But it has a certain effect. When somebody starts swearing at you, it's very aggressive, and you then get all riled up. And when girls swear at their husbands or men swear at their wives, it just escalates the situation. We've got to be careful about our tone with one another. We've got to think always think about the other person in the situation, not yourself. Yes, I'm upset. Yes, I'm this, I'm that. But the big thing about a Christian is get over yourself. What about them? What do they think? I can't always do that. Well, no, neither can I. But it's an ideal. Think about the other person. Yeah? Now, and then how we act. 1 Corinthians 10:31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. Now, it's a small thing, but when I was teaching, the guy next door kept borrowing a chair from my room, which meant I was short for chairs for the kids I had. So I kept having to send a kid down to the hall to get another chair. So one day I kind of very grumpily said, "No, you can't have one. You're always taking my chairs." And then I thought, well, hang on a minute, it's a chair, get over yourself. Yeah, so I went next door and I said, "Hey, I'm sorry." I said, "I shouldn't have taken your head off. You can borrow a chair whenever you want." Because, what good is it to be grumpy about a chair? Okay, so, we need to watch what we're saying. Now, there are 4 types of lost men today. First of all, there's the soft man. I watched this dreadful programme called Gladiators. I've watched it when the girls were little, and it was just a family show, so I watched it now, it's come out again. And differences between 20 years ago and now are quite stark, staringly obvious. And one of the differences is the number of men who come out crying. Yeah, "Oh, I'm so happy to be here, it's such an honour to represent my family." And I'm thinking, goodness me, boy, there's nothing to cry about. Stop being so soft. And I know I'd get told off in a lot of circles for that. But, if there's a reason to cry, then we cry. The scripture says there's a season for everything. But if there's no reason to cry, don't do it. Come on. The second lost man is exaggerated. Very aggressive, very promiscuous. I'm a he-man, I'm going to do this, that, and girls don't really matter. And again, that's wrong. God doesn't want that kind of man. Yes, he wants men to be stand in their manhood, but not be aggressive. Then there's the lost man. I had a parent basically beg us not to expel her son from 6th form, because the minute he left school, he was going to go in his bedroom and not come out. And this is increasing much more than you think. It's a real problem in China because of the one-child policy. There's something like 30-40% of young men who can't find a bride because their parents aborted or got rid of girls, so there's not enough women in their society in this whole generation of young men. And what they've done is they've retreated from the world. They've gone into themselves, and we're seeing it here. Young men do not know where they fit, and a reaction to that is to retreat from society and stay on the computer and live an online life. And it is sad. It is very, very sad. And then there's the angry man, which we've heard some about, just get angry at ladies, angry at everything. God doesn't want any of those kinds of men. He wants strong men but he doesn't want any of those kinds. He wants, society has labelled strong men as toxic, but they just don't understand. We need strong men to do some things in society, to take the boys up the high ropes. Yeah, I mean, I know it sounds daft, but I got halfway up and thought, I can't do this, I'm on my way back down. Now, we need strong men to stand by their families in thick and thin, to stand by their wives, yeah? And we need that. We need that so much, ladies. So, that's the situation today. That's where we are. Now I'm going to talk a bit next time, and it is a two-parter. I'm going to talk a bit next time about what we can do about that and about what God has to say about it. So thank you very much. Yay!